Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Daniel James. This evening's last post ceremony commemorates the 55th anniversary of Operation Bribie, which took place during the Vietnam War. The operation came about as a result of an attack by the Viet Cong D445 Battalion on a South Vietnamese outpost near Lang Phuc Hai in the early hours of the 17th of February. Viet Cong forces continued their attacks on South Vietnamese posts nearby before withdrawing to the clear forest strip known to the Australians as the Light Green. It was decided that the 1st Australian Task Force at Nui Dat would mount a quick reaction. The task fell to the 6th Battalion Royal Australian Regiment. That afternoon, 6 RA attempted to cut off the Viet Cong force as it withdrew. The battalion's lead company came under heavy fire soon after leaving the landing zone. What followed was 5 hours of fighting in which both sides suffered heavy casualties. This evening, we will tell the story of Private David Raleigh Webster, who died during the operation. We are honoured to welcome Minister Emma Davidson, Assistant Minister for Seniors, Veterans, Families and Community Services, and the delegation representing the Ministerial Advisory Council for Veterans and their families. This group is comprised of community members with a material interest in issues affecting veterans and their families in the ACT. It provides advice to ACT government on policies and initiatives which help to support better outcomes for the city's veteran community. We're also honoured to welcome Mr. John King, President of the Returned Services League of Australia, ACT branch. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with gold and soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Please be seated if you can do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private David Raleigh Webster. David Webster was born on the 20th of February 1945 in Corowa, New South Wales, the son of Robin and Phyllis Webster. David grew up on the family farm in country Victoria, where he attended Geelong Grammar. After achieving his intermediate certificate in 1962, he attended Wangaratta Technical College, where he studied farming for a year. After completing his studies, the family relocated to Ongerup, Western Australia, where they bought a farm and Webster began working with his father. In 1956, he was called up for national service and entered the 2nd Recruit Training Battalion at Puckapunyal on the 29th of September. After completing his basic training, Webster was sent to Singleton, where he trained as an infantryman. Having trained, he was next posted to the 6th Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment, eventually becoming part of 5 Platoon B Company, led by 2nd Lieutenant John O'Halloran. 6 RAR received a warning order to prepare for service in Vietnam on the 8th of March 1966. The battalion had deployed on an exercise when, on the 15th of March, David was informed that his younger brother Richard had been killed in a motorcycle accident. Webster was taken from the field and flew to Perth at his own expense. He then hitchhiked home to attend his brother's funeral. He spent several weeks at home and overstayed his leave to assist his mother. On his return, he was charged with being absent without leave, but only lightly punished. He arrived in South Vietnam on the 5th of August and rejoined his platoon, which was located at Nui Dat. Over the next 6 months, Webster was involved in all of 6 RAR's patrols and operations and was part of a patrol that located the enemy mortar base plate positions in the lead up to the Battle of Long Tan. After attacks on South Vietnamese compounds took place in the early hours of the 17th of February 1967, the 1st Australian Task Force received a request for assistance and 6 RAR was tasked to assist. Codenamed Operation Bribey, A Company was airlifted to the area of operations first. After moving into the light jungle, it took fire and suffered casualties before withdrawing to the landing zone. B Company followed on the next lift, and the men were forced to jump from hovering helicopters as the enemy fire stopped them from landing. Webster and his platoon moved into the jungle and regrouped as the rest of the company began to arrive. A reconnaissance party was sent out and soon came under fire, leading it to withdraw to its starting position, where a company orders group was underway. Believing the enemy numbers facing them were small, it was decided to carry out a quick attack. B Company began its attack, but after advancing 150 metres, 5 Platoon was ordered to halt. 4 Platoon was pinned down by enemy fire. 5 Platoon began to take casualties, now taking fire from all sides. 6 Platoon was ordered to move to the left, but the attack faltered under heavy enemy fire. 5 Platoon was ordered to advance and take out a machine gun holding up the rest of the company. After fixing bayonets, the men of 5 Platoon ran, yelling straight at the enemy positions. Three machine guns on their right flank opened fire, decimating the forward section and forcing survivors to the ground. Webster's section was all but destroyed. Only the section commander, Corporal Robin Jones, survived unscathed. 5 men were wounded and 3 killed, one of whom was David Webster. The other forward section suffered 5 wounded and 1 killed. 2 men in the rear section were ordered to provide covering fire for the platoon as it attempted to extract casualties. Both were killed as they moved forward to a new firing position. Armoured personnel carriers from A Squadron, 1st Cavalry Regiment, were called in to provide fire support and extract B Company. One was hit by recoilless fire rounds, which killed the driver and wounded the crew commander, a medic, and caused further wounds to several wounded men in the back of the vehicle. Survivors were taken to their original landing zone, where the wounded were evacuated. The following morning, David Webster's body and those of his comrades were recovered, along with a wounded member of 5 Platoon who had been presumed dead. 6 RAR suffered 7 men killed and 26 wounded. All but one of the dead and almost half of the wounded were from 5 Platoon. Webster's remains were returned to Australia and laid to rest in now Wangarup Cemetery in Western Australia. He was 21 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my left, along with more than 500 other Australians who died while serving in the Vietnam War. Private David Webster is positioned on the far right of the back row in the photograph that is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private David Raleigh Webster, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We particularly appreciate your visit despite the challenges posed by COVID and wish you all a very pleasant evening.